Thank you, and Minister, you're very welcome here this morning. And I thought this commencement matter on this topic would be a good opportunity for you to clear the air. The issue on the table is the allocation of €1.1 million to LGBTQ plus projects, having been diverted from schemes for the traveller and Roma communities, migrant integration and the Magdalen Laundries redress. This was revealed by Deputy Tobin through documents uncovered via a Freedom of Information request. Your personal request in 2021 to reallocate funding of $750,000 to the LGBT Community Service funding called, thereby doubling its exchequer funding, was characterised as a, quote, once-off exceptional measure. However, such was not to be the case, as November 2022 saw another request to transfer $350,000 out of a fund for travellers and Roma to LGBT projects. We are aware that the Department of Public Expenditure and the Reform informed your department that this amounted to 6% of the traveller and Roma budget, and that it should not lead to future spending commitments. Additionally, these monies were funnelled into projects which were originally not selected to receive funding. Almost $100,000 was gifted to TENI, which has had its HSE funding repeatedly suspended in recent years due to poor accounting governance. A memo noted the TENI proposal was among 5 projects the department sought to have reviewed by an external examiner due to different views internally on its application. It would seem that not all in the department are happy to continue unquestionably funnelling taxpayers' resources into organisations which cannot meet minimum accounting requirements. While of course it is desirable that public monies be used for public good and that unspent monies serve no one, the question many people have in relation to these revelations is why were only LGBT organisations in receipt of the funding? How was this decision made? What was the process in which the recipients of this funding were selected over other community projects? The Minister's Department has had an extraordinary wide remit. Were there no other initiatives that would have benefited from this funding? What about the disability sector under your remit? What about the children in care, state care, childcare, immigration integration? These funding decisions, Minister, have led to accusations of you having engaged in a sort of ideology based parochialism, prioritising pet projects which fall under your government's remit over others. I'm sure you can see how some might receive that impression. So today I thought you might like to address the matter and put it to rest. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. Minister, you have 4 minutes to respond.
Thank you, Chair. And I welcome the opportunity to speak to the House on funding to LGBT plus groups. Ireland has become a proud, progressive and modern state that supports and cherishes all people equally. We've made great strides in recent decades to promote equality and respond to the changing needs of a diverse population. I'm here today to discuss funding provided to LGBT plus groups in 2021 and 2022. The LGBT plus Community Service Fund supports groups working to promote inclusion, protect rights and to improve quality of life and well-being for members of the LGBTI plus community, enabling them to participate fully in Ireland's social, economic, cultural and political life. Each year there's a competitive open call for funding. All applications are independently evaluated by an assessment team to determine eligibility for funding in strict adherence with assessment criteria contained within the published guidelines and are subject to review by an external reviewer. Each year, the Department receives a significant number of applications of a high standard for consideration. In the past 2 years, the LGBTI plus Community Services Fund has been oversubscribed. I'd like to address the disappointing inference made here that what is a standard and commonplace feature of departmental financial procedure is somehow in this case being described as an attempt by me to divert funding away from vulnerable groups. A standard procedure exists under government financial procedure to allow funds allocated under any subhead that are not going to be used before the year end to be reallocated to use in another subhead. This is a process known as veerment. It occurs in every department and it has taken place in my own department 26 times over the past 3 years. I stress again, monies that are uncommitted cannot be spent by end of year, either are returned to the central fund, returned to DEPR, or must be reallocated within a departmental vote. And as part of the normal monitoring of ongoing expenditure, budget holders and departmentals, the department's central finance unit are required to alert as to whether there are uncommitted funds in any area that could be used to be reallocated under veerment. Any decision to seek sanction for veerment must be approved at senior level before being submitted to DEPR. And I think it's disappointing in the extreme that members in both houses charged with a financial oversight of government would seek to engage in outright misinformation, and yet again, in doing so, although always implied, always unspoken, the charge rests that I, as a gay politician, must be up to no good in an effort to benefit my own community. That I would go as far as to take funding away from other vulnerable groups to do so. And this is an easy villain trope to peddle, and how shamelessly it is being done. And I repeat, the veerment process has been undertaken 26 times in my department over the past 3 years, and yet this instance is the instance that has been singled out. And that's not by accident, and it has an impact. Senator, you may have heard me recently talk about the level of abuse that I and other LGBT+ politicians and activists are receiving. And central to much of the most recent tranche of messages that I've received, full of disgusting allegations, paedophile, groomer, not safe to be around children, central to those allegations is the accusation that I've done something unfounded as regards funding. Whatever about me, this has an impact on other people, vulnerable people, and that can be immense. Last year was the year where we saw the most level of violence towards the LGBT+ community across Europe. And here I find myself summoned by you to account to this chamber on the premise of an absolute lie. And I think it's beneath you and it's beneath this chamber. There's no possible genuine concern here. You know the budgetary process, you know how it works, and frankly, I think you should know better.
Thank you, Minister, for that very comprehensive response. Senator, you
have
one minute to respond.
Thank you very much, Chair. And Minister, absolutely I would condone anybody that would make any personal remarks in relation to you because of your sexuality. That's not why I'm here this morning. Minister, I understand we don't want money sitting unused, and that environments are an important part of ensuring the continued efficiency of government spending. And it's simply the case that many found it unusual that all of these unspent monies from various disparate funds ended up being siphoned off and spent on the same issue. Your department has the widest remit of any government department. Your full title doesn't fit on one line of an A4 page in greater than 16-point type. Are we to believe that across the multitudes of areas of which you are responsible, none could have done with the extra injections of funds more than TENI or other LGBT rights?
Other environments.
We wouldn't have time here today to talk about the plight of the children of this and their families across the country if it took up all the commencement slots. Would they not have been benefited from the 1.1 million in funding? Thank you.
Minister to respond.
Thank you, Senator. You speak of the importance of the environment process, and it's great to see you actually do have a good knowledge of its importance. So I suppose I would ask, why of the 26 environments that my department has undertaken over the last 3 years, 26 times where we took money from one place where it was unspent and moved it to the others, why is this the only one you're asking me about? Why is it the one you're asking?
Minister,
why the other 25 perhaps you can investigate? The reason, and I know the reason, and you know the reason, and the reason has this unspoken assertion that I've done something dodgy here, that I've looked to channel money into LGBT+ groups. And Senator, you've spoke on International Women's Day, you spoke very eloquently about the fact that you have the voice here and you have a voice to raise issues that maybe others don't want heard spoken about. Well, I can tell you I have a voice too, and I won't allow an assertion like this be put against me.